Gen SS on the dyno today.
2010 LS3 stick shift car. So this customer purchased this car this way. So you might see already it's got Magnuson sticking up off the top of the engine there. So we got an ADM intake to Radex 2300 Magnuson, inch and 7/8 headers, X pipe with a, I think it's a JL, SLP, or can't remember the catback, but it has a catback on it. It's got mufflers on it. It's got a thermostat in it. It's got a camshaft in it. Again, stuff that we did not do. This customer purchased this, and we've done some work for his brother and his nephew, and some of their stuff, some of their family's cars. So he bought this because he wanted a hot rod. So it's got a 3.6 pulley on it. So I've done a couple working runs on it so far. We're up on the dyno. Seeing about 6 pounds of boost, which is typical for something like this. The camshaft is like a 222, 234 at 50, and the lift is like 570-ish. So it's like XFI comp lobe. So this build was done like 10 or some long time ago, over 10 years ago. So it's got some of the earlier technology on it, but still works okay. Cam sounds decent. It's like a 113 plus 4 for the lobe separation angle. So nothing too big. Obviously, like our stage 1 cam's a little bit bigger, but it still's got a nice sound to it, and it's making some okay power for what it is. So he brought it in for us to check out. It had an oil leak, and the tune on it, when I went and test drove it, was pulling a ton of timing when you roll up onto the throttle, like 6, 8, 9 degrees of timing when you just, like in third gear, rolling onto the throttle at 2,500, 3,000 RPM, kind of where you'd normally play around the street. Every single time you do that, the knock sensors would go crazy. So we went over that with him. He said, you know, you guys do your thing, whatever needs to be done. So we had to take the blower off. The valley cover that's included on these Magnusons was, it's all one piece, but then there's a pressed in boss for the oil pressure sensor, and where that presses in, there's a seam on the underside of it, because it's 2 pieces there, and that seam crosses the gasket that seals the valley cover to the block. So that seam was leaking oil, so we fixed that leak. We kind of went over the thing. We put a set of fuel injector clinic injectors, our K900 injectors from them, and because they had some unknown old, again, injector technology has come a long way since 2010 or 11, whenever this is done. Car's only got 4,500 miles on it, so somebody had it modified and just had it sitting. So maybe because the tune wasn't quite right, I didn't have an air fuel gauge on it when I was test driving it, so I couldn't see wideband stuff. I could see the narrowband voltage, and it looked like it was rich enough, but that's kind of not very accurate to read narrowband voltage, trying to read air fuel at wide throttle. Anyway, it had too much timing in it, so the tune needed some work. The other thing they had, which is an old school trick, is the throttle blade. The throttle plate had a hole drilled in it, the old F-body 4th gen trick that guys used to do a long time ago, which we don't need to do anymore. I had some comments on that's how you tune 4th gens, 4th gen LS1s when you cam them. Absolutely, you don't need to do that anymore. There's tables in HP tuners that allow you to adjust, as there is tables in this that allow you to adjust the amount of airflow at idle coming through the throttle body. That's measured from the air system, the air model, whether it's the mass airflow or the map. You don't need to drill holes and stuff anymore. This is not 2005. So we did that a long time ago when HP Tuners was real slim on the tuning. Now we have all sorts of tables we can adjust for that stuff. So we actually took the stock, that throttle blade out of that throttle body. We unscrewed it, and I got some spare LS3 throttle bodies that we had taken some electronic parts out of. So I put one of those throttle plates with no hole in it, and the car idles awesome with our tuning on it, with my tuning on it. So got that fixed up. Yeah, so we just kind of went over it with the fine-tooth comb, fixed all the little stuff that was going on with it. I'm trying to think if we had any other things we did. I think that kind of covers it, kind of tidied up some of the wiring and tied some stuff off, whatever, you know, some stuff that's not rubbing and chafing and whatever. So it's all good to go now. I pretty much got the idle dialed in. I've done a couple worked up some runs getting the tune dialed in to this point. So I'm gonna do 1 or 2 more pulls with it here. I'll film the last one, and then we can take a look at some numbers and see where we end up with horsepower and torque. This finished up. That's looking pretty good. 584 in that final. So I left the second to last run up, the blue run. So that one was off camera. Red one was the one we just saw, 584. So I added some timing up through here and picked up a little chunk of power up there. So that looks pretty good. I'm just gonna leave it like this. We'll look at the data log. This is already getting 18 and a half degrees of timing. That's pretty strong for pump gas at 93 octane boosted LS3. So even at low boost like this, we don't need to run this at the ragged edge. So that was, the difference between those two was like 1.5 degrees of timing. So another degree would probably get us like maybe 5 or 6 horsepower, but I just don't think it's worth it. We got some pretty chilly air in here today, and I don't want to push things for when it's 95 degrees outside and he's cruising around. So we're gonna call it at this. I did take some timing down here out. You can see the difference there because I was getting some knock down here, so I had to take some timing out of that, obviously, and add some fuel. I had to richen it up, and we'll look at the data log. I think maybe there's just still a little tick of it, but it was pretty minimal. So yeah, that's looking good. We'll take a look at the data log. So bring this cursor over so we can take a look. So yeah, you can see there's a couple little ticks of knock that I can kind of clean up. And even up here. So yeah, so I didn't even see that during the run because I clicked the dyno off right away. So you can see I did add the timing. It did pick up power up, but I'm gonna have to take just like a half out of there. So I did bring it up to 18 and a half, or maybe if I just drop that 18 and a half down, probably where it went to that extra 0.5 degree is where it pulled that extra. I mean, the knock's 0.7, so it's pretty small. So there's a degree. This is where I was getting that knock just on the hit. That's a little bit of burst knock that I left in. Being this camshaft is kind of small, I leave some of the burst knock in there, so when you do just whack the throttle really quick, it does just pull a real quick amount of timing out just to help transition from no boost to boost. Otherwise you can pick up big chunks of knock on stuff like this with smaller cams. So air fuel looks pretty good. You can see I got that riding right on that 0.8 area. I'm a little rich down here because again I was getting some knock kind of that low RPM rolling onto it type of deal. But otherwise, yeah, that's looking pretty good. 0.81 up towards the top. I got it a little fatter in the mid-range here at peak torque. So everything here looks nice other than these little nicks and knock. I can just take a little half out here, and that'll get rid of that stuff. You know, we try to maximize as much as we can. We don't want to lean on stuff too hard, but you know, these knock sensor systems on these E38 computers, on these engine controllers for the 5th Gen Camaros is pretty good, and it's pretty sensitive. So any little bits of it picks up. So yeah, this looks good. 6 pounds of boost, maybe about 6 pounds ish. That's pretty typical again with this pulley combination, with a set of headers and a cam. And you can see how, you know, again, as I'm ramping timing up as the RPM climbs, the boost does climb a smidge towards the top. But you can see that's probably about where the camshaft starts to start to run out of steam a little bit. You can see it's kind of holding boost 141, and you can see 142, 144, and you can see as it approaches 67, it starts to climb. So I took this to 6,900-ish. I got the limiter at 6,900. So yeah, again, we had a sheet of stuff. The modifications that was done, we had like a receipt from the shop that did it a while back, and parts are decent, you know, so I'm comfortable with the parts that are in it to 7,000 RPM. So yeah, this is looking really good. Go take a look at that graph one more time.
I'll close these out, just open up that very last pull I just did. So 584, 539 torque for a lightly boosted LS3. So that'll do it for this one. I'm gonna get it out on the street. A little salty today for that, but we'll probably get it out on the road next week. It's time of year where it's like snow, rain, then we'll have a nice day. So if we get the right combination of some rain and then a nice day after that, we can go drive cars when it's 40, 50 degrees. So, but that'll do it for the dyno session on this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and keep checking back the channel for more dyno videos.